This is Maurice Jones-Drew, and you're listening to the What's Bruin Show.
You're listening to the What's Bruin Show, part of the What's Bruin Show network, with your hosts, Jake Berryfield and Mike Regalado, and occasionally some friends, talking all things UCLA sports. And now, it's time for the What's Bruin Show.
Well, hello, welcome to What's Bruin. I am your host, Jake Merrifield. I'm coming here just a day after we recorded a big, long show for you. Actually, two long shows for you. We did a What's Bruin show, and we did a West Coast Bias show for you all. But, hey, there's been some big developments with UCLA football, haven't there? Go Bruins!
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins!
Go Bruins.
So according to reports, and the main report was from Bruce Feldman, which is almost always certainly super duper reliable, it looks like the Bruins have landed the Tennessee transfer Nico Iamaleava. And that's a pretty cool thing because he's a five-star high school recruit, number one ranked in the transfer portal, and he's 6'6", he's 215 pounds. He led the Volunteers to a 10-2 record last year, and they're also in the college football playoff. So all those things happened, 2,600 yards and change, 19 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. And no matter how you want to look at this in a positive or negative light or whatever your spin on it is, the guy is certainly going to be a more talented option than what the Bruins had in on their roster so far. So at the very, very, very minimum, it's a talent upgrade. And what it means for UCLA football, you can decide for yourself. Did they sell their soul to go get a guy? I don't know. Did you go do what you need to do in this era of the crazy transfer portal and the no rules on NIL and all that stuff? Well, you can make up your mind for yourself. Mike and I had a thoughtful conversation about this last night when the potential was there for it to happen. And I will let you listen to that. But in a nutshell, my thought on this is I thought that if they could bring in a guy that is a 6'6", 215-pound, five-star transfer, you absolutely should, as long as you're not bringing him in to be bigger than the team. If you can, bring him in and have him fit in with the guys that you already have, and hopefully your up-and-coming offensive coordinator that's supposed to be a hot prospect can have something new to develop, and Deshaun Foster can get these guys all pulling in one way to go into next season, the 2025 season, and let the chips fall where they may, then it's a good thing. If you're bringing in a giant distraction that's going to cause problems in the program, then it's not worth it. And I think that's something that Deshaun Foster and his staff have to judge for themselves. And I think now that it's happened, I'm pretty thrilled about it because I think it is, at the very least, it takes the Bruins from being completely off the radar and puts them solidly onto the national landscape again, to where somebody will actually be talking about them heading into the season. There'll be the ability for them to generate some buzz. And there are, now you can actually pin some expectations on this team instead of just saying, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And they lost everybody and the roster turned over and who the hell are these guys and yada, yada, yada. Now there's actually something to look forward to for this team going into next season other than just a bunch of absolute unknowns. Is this another unknown? Yeah, but at least it's an unknown that has a number one ranked transfer prospect, Tennessee college football playoff quarterback, 6'6", 250 pounds attached to it, right? And the issues with the family, if there are any, or with the handlers, if there are any, are all something that remains to be seen, because something about this year that hasn't really ever happened before is we haven't had this wild, wild west. This is something that's developed in the last couple of years in college football. So the way that people respond and react and negotiate and deal in an era where there are really no rules, you can blame the teams, or you can blame the NCAA, or you can blame just, college football in general, or you can blame the players. But there's a lot of blame to go around, and there's not really a precedence right now. And so whatever anybody does, short of, these are all negotiations, for lack of a better term, between all these teams and players and all that stuff. And so whatever their tactics are, maybe it doesn't come off great in the press at the moment, but it's a lot different than what it used to be, is all I'm saying, because there really are no rules right now. So we might hear a lot of rumors about what was demanded, or what wasn't demanded, or what was promised, or what wasn't delivered, or whatever you have about what Iamaleava's story was at Tennessee. But what I do know is there's been a lot of weird stories revolving Tennessee, the football program, the boosters, coaching hires, fans calling for coaching fires, engineering that, and all the way around to where this is just one in a long line of really weird, questionable stories to come out of volunteer football in the last 10 years. And so, sure, could it be that this player coming into UCLA's program is somebody who's going to be a big distraction on the level of the balls? You know,
Balls, 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 balls.
that's absolutely a possibility. But could it also be that, well, the guy's from out here and he just didn't like it out there, and for whatever reason they didn't get along with that administration or what was promised or what wasn't promised or whatever, and now he's here and he's here to play for the Bruins in this 2025 season, and it could be a massive upgrade over what they had. That's also very possibly true. So I'm going to choose to be excited about it. And I do want to play for you the conversation Mike and I had last night about this, because I thought we hashed it out pretty well. And my priorities or my thoughts on what was important, I don't think I'm going to be able to say it any better here. So with that being said, here's what me and Mike had to say last night about this potential of this prospect coming to the Bruins. And now that he's here, welcome. Go Bruins. Go Bruins, Nico. Averaging 16 points a game to 20 points a game, or 16 points a game to 25 or whatever, but they are going to be a better offense next year just from the fact that they've gotten rid of the giant freaking, horrible albatross of Eric Bieniemy from their coaching staff. And, God bless him and good luck, but Jesus God, that was the death knell for the football team last year and kept them from making a splash in the Big Ten.
Yeah, exactly.
Which leads to the next topic.
Okay.
Because right now, Mike,
Uh-huh.
right now UCLA football, like, we care about it. I care deeply about it.
I care.
But, Mike, how would you characterize, you talk about, college football across the country, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Power 4, whatever, ACC. The Big Ten's a big effing conference.
Yeah.
A lot of teams. If you had to characterize UCLA in like the level of buzz UCLA has this offseason and heading into next season, is it even on the buzz meter at all? Is it completely flatlined? What do you think? Because in my opinion, it's completely effing flatlined. Nobody gives a flying crap about UCLA football right now other than us schmucks who care about UCLA football.
Yeah.
But nationally, what is the storyline that is popping for them, which we'll get to in a minute? There is one. But what's the others, other than the obvious thing we're about to talk about? Have there been any storylines that have popped at all for UCLA football relative to the big picture in college football? Not that that's important, but
the only thing that comes to mind is Tino Sanseri's hair is immaculate.
and they made the hire, and that was good.
He looks like a Sicilian Morrissey.
Right. But heading into next year, he does. Yeah, he's awesome.
But as far as actual
fan.
buzz, like, do people care about UCLA football? No.
Nationally, do you think that
No.
UCLA football will be picked to come in any better than bottom fourth of the Big Ten next year, like by pretty much everyone?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's pretty much what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Last year they had the opportunity to make a splash, and then they failed pretty much because of that horrible offense, and they ended up 5-7 and missing a bowl game and missing the opportunity to like stamp this as a even a mediocre entrance in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And next year, based on what their schedule is and how they performed and the way they hired Deshaun Foster, and not that we're, I'm done with this whole storyline, but it's still there. The way that he performed at Media Day, and then the way they started the season, and then the way that the offense performed at under 20 points a game for an entire season, God help us. The transfer of Dante Moore, all these things, that was a bigger storyline. The firing of Chip Kelly, which is a bigger thing. They're completely, they got no juice right now.
No. And that's
now they can make their own juice.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm hoping. But this week, I'm sorry, did you have anything to say about not having any juice?
Well, I was just going to briefly say, like, one thing that has been something that I'm like, UCLA needs to get up on this is their promotion, selling the programs, selling the athletic department. And it is, even though it's I'm not getting into a political discussion, but even though UCLA is more of a liberal school, the athletic department has a very conservative take on how they present themselves, which is fine.
Make UCLA great again.
Oh my God. I threw up. Oh my God. How dare you? But they have to put themselves out there. Like, look what Oregon does with their promotions with puddles. They had a freaking rubber ducky on the Indianapolis, whatever that river is in Indianapolis, for Big Ten Media Day. That's how you sell yourself.
You can do that stuff when you have a top 5 team every year.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You can't put the cart before the horse, right?
That's very true.
That's the problem.
But even when UCLA was good, when UCLA was doing their Final Four run,
when was UCLA good?
UCLA men's basketball. Okay. Final Four. Just the same amount of media coverage. Media promotion. I'll get away from my beer. Thank you. That's mine. When the women's team went to the Final Four, it was basically the same. Amped up for the Final Four.
They could do a better job of capitalizing on their success.
Yeah, like for example, all year we've been seeing Juju Watkins in these State Farm commercials. Finally, Lauren Betts is in a national commercial during the Final Four. Why isn't that earlier in the season? This is stuff that UCLA kind of needs to shake off this whole, we're UCLA, we need to present ourselves in a certain way, ha ha ha, and have a little attitude. Their teams are going to get better, and you know how you get eyeballs on your program?
By winning.
Yes, that's one. But being out there too, like what is that stupid minor league baseball team that dances before every pitch? I don't even know if they're good or not, but the fact that they're getting national attention because they're doing stupid little dances before every pitch. Like, that's how you get the butts in the seats. When the Kings were just dreadful before their first Stanley Cup, I remember they would have day of ticket sales. You get to the box office by 10 a.m. and you get a $5 ticket for the 300 row. And how did they keep you in there? Because their in-game presentation was fantastic. Lights, sounds, games. Hey, we're going to engage. We suck, but we love that you're here. And even their social media presence right around the time of their first Stanley Cup championship was just hilarious. You hadn't seen that in sports. Oh, damn you dogs. Hadn't seen that in sports media. That UCLA has to do something to just get more, here's one thing that I do like. Have you heard of Cholo Creeper?
No, Mike.
Cholo Fit? And the logarithm knows. It knows I'm Mexican American and I love comedy acts. So there's this one guy he does this thing. I'm not going to get into it. You should be there. Called Cholo Fit. So he's basically a cholo doing kind of exercises and using cholo poses to and then when you stand up, really strain the back, and it's
very nice.
Freaking hilarious. He's going to be emceeing the Friday Night Lights. And UCLA has put out a poster with him being all cholo and, posing with UCLA in the background. But I'm like, this is awesome. This is a good direction. Now, I think that they should do videos about it, prep it, just sell it somehow. So I was like, you know what? This is one good way to say, hey, we're not going to take ourselves too seriously.
That's fine, and I'm in favor of all that, and that's good. But that's more geared towards the fans that you already have, right? Talking about a Friday Night Lights thing or whatever like that. And really, I'm just talking more just from the perspective of where does UCLA land nationally as far as the buzz they generate across the country. It's absolutely at a low point right now, which is hard to imagine considering the low points they've had over the last 2 decades. The great few years of Mora, notwithstanding the sort of mediocre peak of Kelly, notwithstanding. It is that nobody is UCLA football is completely irrelevant nationally right now. However, they do have an opportunity right now, and that opportunity was created when Nico Iamaleava. Iamaleava decided to leave Tennessee
because of NIL.
After a lot of different wrangling over NIL, apparently allegedly held him hostage before the playoff game last year, and then there's been a parting of the ways basically, and the guy His brother was a UCLA recruit that flipped on
Yeah.
signing day.
He went to Arkansas.
But the guy bouncing back possibly to UCLA is something that is in the ether. Whether or not it's a really, truly serious thing or not remains to be seen. Whether or not they would have be able to scrounge up the money to give him what he wanted. From people that I've talked to, it sounds like he's going to land somewhere for less than what he was getting at Tennessee, as opposed to what he was trying to get from Tennessee. And you hear all sorts of opinions. Oh, he's going to go down into the lower divisions for a year and then come back. Oh no, he's going to go to whatever Power 5 or Power 4 pays him the most. All these different things. But Mike, just from a buzz standpoint, there's pros and cons to this for sure. In my opinion, the only pros to this are you had a college quarterback with experience that played pretty well, right? He's playing in a system at Tennessee that was kind of, the system kind of runs itself, and so you just need a guy to execute and not screw it up kind of thing.
Yeah.
So how that reflects on what his actual ability is as a quarterback kind of remains to be seen. But if you told me that you're going to plug in a guy that did well at Tennessee with their system and what we expect UCLA to have with Sunseri, I'd say that's probably going to be a good match, right? So just from that standpoint, it seems like he's an upgrade over what they may or may not have at quarterback right now. Even though they got Aguilar from Appy State and they got Duncan back there, this would be an upgrade over that. It would seem.
Yeah.
It would seem. Now, that's certainly a positive. The other positive would be this would instantly give UCLA a giant buzz boost. Now, is that really important? How do we value that? I don't know. Was it really important and a value boost that they got Dante Moore when they got Dante Moore? Or would it have been better if they would have never got Dante Moore and they would have had Ethan Garbers play that whole season, and they probably would have been a better team for it by the end? And maybe, that there's all sorts of different things you could say about how that plays out and whether or not, how that plays out for Chip Kelly as well.
Yeah.
I am very, very, I don't know what to think about this, because on one hand, every time UCLA goes star fucking, it bites them in the ass. I mean, it just seems like
you're not wrong. Mike Juarez.
Hey, Mike, where are you?
Dante Moore. There was another one up there. The defensive end, Jalen. That guy, the defensive end that went to Miami.
Yeah, I have the Barton Simmons drop of him saying that. Jalen Phillips.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like, these type of moves, and it's like, if you tell me they can get this quarterback for a reasonable price, that's not completely outsized towards what the rest of the team is, I say, okay, now I'm kind of sort of interested in it. But at the same other time, you tell me that, okay, well, you're bringing in this guy and probably what is the equivalent of the Ball family compound coming in.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that.
Yeah.
And like, it seems like that's a big part of the story as well.
Yeah.
Is
very much
him and his handler / family / support system seem to be a little bit hard to manage.
You're not
Is
wrong.
that something we want to challenge our young coach with? Oh, I don't know. Maybe if it gives him some buzz, maybe. But this is more complicated than just like, oh, we want him or no, we don't want him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't know where I land yet, because I really feel like every time UCLA goes after somebody in this sense that's got this sort of profile, it always bites us in the goddamn ass.
Well, and then think of this too. Let's say it all goes well. Let's say he signs with UCLA. He's a number one. He's QB1. Gets UCLA not just to a bowl, but let's think big and say he wins 9 games. Helps UCLA wins 9 games.
That is a crazy thought.
And then
already, okay, good. I'm glad we did it.
And then, and then says, you know what? I'm going to return to UCLA. I want to return to UCLA for the 2026 season. He's definitely going to want more.
In that case, who the hell cares? What I'm worried about is halfway through the season, you're going on the road to freaking Michigan, and
you
he's
already
like,
answered. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I don't think I'm going to play because I need a bump.
Well, that's what I was. Yeah, exactly.
That's scary.
Exactly. Well, no, because at that point, hopefully, if UCLA plays their cards right, and especially they manage NIL and recruiting and all that, they get enough players to come in and say, hey, this is what we're possible of. Things didn't work out with Nico, even though he took us to places we haven't been in several years, but we need to move forward with our program. I think, that's kind of a win-win for UCLA because you're not going to have this if he doesn't come. If he comes, there's going to be a little bit more success, and that's probably going to put you. I think it will. Having a quarterback of that much skill, that has feet and an arm like that, the attitude, that's going to be a thorn in the side. But UCLA has to let him know. Yeah, if this doesn't work after a year, later.
I think I am firmly of the opinion at this point of if he comes at some sort of discount from what Tennessee was going to pay him, like meaning it's not something that is completely dominating what UCLA is spending on other players that it's trying to retain or keep or whatever, like it doesn't make this guy a giant, singular force of the program. Like we're selling our soul to have this guy come in type of dynamic. I am not in favor of that.
There's a lot.
If they can bring him in and he's going to be part of the team, and there's other guys on the team that are of equal standing to him based on whatever. I don't know how these players nowadays are going to measure themselves, but I'm sure that whatever paycheck they're drawing is part of it, right? Whatever NIL they're drawing. So if they bring him in and it's a situation where it's not disruptive to the overall chemistry of the team, then I'm 10 times in favor of it because, bring in the talent. That's what's great. But this is my concern in a nutshell, and it is, we talked about this a couple months ago, and it's these college football teams now, while it is completely unregulated, and you can have a team like Indiana last year that brings in half of its team via the transfer portal, or you could have a team like UCLA this year, which seems to have brought in half its team via the transfer portal. The coaches that are going to win are going to be the coaches that can galvanize the players that are actually on their team for that particular season. And as college football fans, we need to get rid of this idea of, I want to get attached to this guy or that guy or that guy. Don't tell me what's going to happen in 2026. I don't give a flying fuck right now because it's going to be completely different than what 2025 is because the roster is going to turn over until they fix the rules. So it's like, don't worry about down the line right now. Like, do what you need to do to get the players you have on your roster on board right now for this season, because that's what's going to count.
Yeah.
And for somebody like Sean Foster, who squandered an opportunity last year to have a season that built his cachet, I think the only thing that Deshaun succeeded in doing last year was, with that nice little stretch they had towards the middle end of the season, is he managed to get the national media that was totally dismissing him because of his late hire and his performance of media day.
Yeah.
He got rid of the opinion that he was in over his head and incompetent, right? Yeah. I think that he proved that he's a competent coach last year for not only the UCLA faithful, but also the national community at large. But still, UCLA is a complete afterthought right now. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you can bring in guys to make this next year, take advantage of it, and at a minimum get to a bowl game, or Mike's talking 9 wins or whatever. You might as well be named Desmond over here. But if they can actually have what's qualified as a quote good season, by UCLA standards, something 8+ wins. Now all of a sudden, now you have some buzz to build to bring in the players for the next season, because you're going to have a big loss. You're going to have a big turnover. That's the way things work now.
Jesus.
But that's what's important right now. And so if you bring in a guy that's going to be divisive to your team chemistry, I am absolutely fucking pass.
No, that's what
I don't care. Let Joey Aguilar run around and fucking throw interceptions and try to make plays, 6 shooters on his hips or whatever. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Let's go with the Appy State guy. But if you think you can bring this guy in and it's not divisive, you think you can bring this guy in and it's not coming in with a giant paycheck that is so much more than any other player on your team that's going to instantly make it divisive. And if you think you can, at least not be undercut by whatever his handler's family / situation is, then by all means.
Yeah. Dude, can you brought up the Ball family. Can you imagine the Ball family in the era of NIL?
Oh my God.
Freaking nightmare. How many schools would all of them have been?
You know how long it's been since I played that? I love this drop.
3 seasons?
Having the Ball family at UCLA was worth it just for that drop. But other than that, not worth much.
No. That one Lonzo year was all right, but one
by Alfred. And then you had a felony.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
You had an international incident.
Yeah.
And then you had a guy that didn't even make it here, who's in the NBA jacking up shots.
Yeah.
Exactly. As a whole, I would rather have the Ball family to have not ever walked onto UCLA's campus.
Yeah.
It was much more of a USC story, in my opinion. But hey, it's ours.
Very much so.
It's our cross to bear.
Balls, 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 balls,
Mike.
balls, 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 balls.
So I think I've come around
Bronny James is USC's.
Okay, so hopefully you found that useful, and those are our thoughts about this new, development for UCLA football. 5-star transfer, Nico Iamaleava is now a Bruin, at least for the 2025 season, and it's a big coup for Deshaun Foster. It's a big coup for the UCLA Bruins football program. Intel blows up in their face, like so many other Bruins in the past may or may not have done.
Go Bruins.
If you don't recognize that voice, that's Dante Moore. But hope springs eternal. And let's now look forward to watching these Bruins on the field next year. Mike and I will be back next week on Tuesday with another show. And until then, before you go, actually, call the hotline too, 805-399-4WBS, Sacramento, Detroit. And let us know what you think about this development for UCLA football. But let's see how it goes, and we'll talk to you more on Tuesday. And until next time, go Bruins.
Good evening.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
That was the What's Bruin Show.
Oh my God.
Try us tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
It's gotta be in or out, Mom. In or out. Well, I need the door closed.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Dude, brah, we play some ball on the West Coast.
The final word is boob.